Welcome you guys to our Sunday Strength. I'm actually doing this on my personal Facebook page today, but I want to welcome everybody in. Don't normally get our Sunday Strength from Shine Campus, and to my people on YouTube as well. Welcome in. All right, so today I want to talk about what to do when someone mistreats you. So, what I know and from growing up and living in this world, man, we have all kinds of experiences where the truth is that people don't treat us the way that they're supposed to, and that happens a lot of different reasons. One reason is that's huge is that everybody goes through their hurts and challenges, and so that happens to get on other people. The other reason is people are focused on whatever they're doing in life, and so their responses and interactions to you probably has less to do with you, but still affect you as much and are as hurtful to you. And so when that happens, um, they're going to mistreat you, and you're going to feel it as that, and that's probably the most important part. And so there's two things that I think are useful in the ways that I've been able to get through scenarios where there's mistreatment, and then I've helped other people to do the same. And so the first thing is put things into perspective. So many times we take it personal about what somebody else is saying or doing to us, or how they've managed us, or um, I know when I was younger, like there was a lot of times where I'm getting called the N word by other little kids, and it makes it harsh, and then or it makes it hard to do life or feel like, oh man, things aren't going my way. But to get out of that, if you put that in perspective, like those little kids were probably suffering as much as I was in a different kind of state. And so if we fast forward that now to adulthood, there's different circumstances, but everybody has their own scenario that they're struggling through or trying to pursue, which is useful for us to put into perspective, because it ends up being less about you. Okay. And so that's the first thing, is to try to put things into perspective as much as possible and understand that these scenarios are more about how the world works. And so if you can think of it that way, it's going to be useful. All right. And then the second thing, and this one's kind of the bigger of the two to me. I remember the story about Joseph, and what happened in the story of Joseph is Joseph's brothers didn't like him very much. And so they threw him into a ditch. And you can go and look at details for yourself, but they threw him into a ditch and then thought, you know what, that's not going to be what we're going to do. We're going to sell him. So they sold him off. And he went through years of struggle because of that scenario, and focused on doing the things that he had to do to get to a different spot. But in that, like, there was still hiccups. There was different things, like he was accused by Potiphar's wife of trying to come on to her, and which wasn't true. And then he was forgotten about once he had helped somebody while he was in prison. And so those scenarios kept happening, and he had to face all of that. And he said something that was really key and useful, I think, whenever you think about the mistreatment that he faced by his siblings. He said something that I think will help all of us if we can keep the same perspective, right? So he re-met his siblings when they were older and they were going through something. They came to a land that he had started to be a high he had a high position in, so he had worked his way up. And when they came to that land to look for him, they discovered that it was him, and they felt bad about what they had done. And he told them, like, you guys might have meant it for bad, but God meant it for good. And that's such a useful way of being able to see the interactions that go on inside of our world. It's hard to get to that point because, I mean, what is your reaction if somebody mistreated you all that way and put you through everything that you had to go through? Would you be able to have that same kind of response and that same kind of perspective? Well, it's available to you, especially if you're able to look at that story or that situation, because if you could think of it like, this scenario was made to sharpen me and to make me better, it's less about who's perpetrating the situation and more about all the things and the opportunities that I have to be able to grow into the scenario. And so that story, the reason the family was coming to him was because there was a famine scenario. Now, it took years to realize this opportunity, but he was able to help his family through the situation that they were facing then. He would have never been able to know that that's what was coming, but because he had stayed in that scenario for so long, he ended up being there in the right time in the right place. And so you don't know what your answer is, and I don't know that it's going to exactly turn out like Joseph's scenario, but I want you to kind of think of that as a response to some of the things that happen. Is that no matter what people do to you or what's happening to you, there's an opportunity for you to realize, just like Joseph said to his siblings, like, you guys meant it for good, but God, or you guys meant it for bad, but God meant it for good. Understand that the scenarios that are happening that are hard can be used for your goodness. And if you could change the perspective on that, you don't have to spend time and energy and battle in the scenario of, man, somebody's mistreating me. Think about the person. And this is, I think, another useful way to look at this is think about the person you become when you have to hold on to all the hurt that you've experienced because of what somebody else is doing. Like, who are you at that point in time? What kind of person are you becoming because you have to hold on and be a part of what it is that they did? And so becoming another person because of what somebody does turns you into to what I like to call Pinocchio, right? I don't want anybody to Pinocchio you. So you don't need to be the puppet of somebody else's emotions or interactions or hurts or whatever it is. You have a way of being that requires that you go through hard things. You have a way of being that requires that you overcome hard things. And you have a way of being that requires that you show off all of the amazing that you are. And so the focus here is to be able to be able to be mindful of those things more than anything. And so remember that saying, and I think it'll be useful to you being able to get over or get through, and maybe getting over isn't a fair word, but being able to get through the hard things when somebody mistreats you, or even when scenarios are going difficult for you. Okay. The thing that I know that you may not be fully aware of is that it's our focus that takes us to the places that we want to be in, right? It's our focus that will remove us from this hard scenario that we're in. Maybe not immediately, and maybe not on your timeline necessarily, but if you stay focused and stay ready for that opportunity, then when that opportunity is there, you don't miss the opportunity. So change your mindset over to being able to say, look, I need to just focus on how this thing makes me better. I need to focus on what I'm supposed to be doing since this situation is happening, right? Instead of being embedded in the hurt and the hardship that somebody else is creating for you. Okay. And so I know the situations are hard. I'm not saying that mistreatment is okay. But I also know that we have the ability to create something else out of our lives without embedding or becoming a Pinocchio of the situation. Okay. I hope this serves you, and we'll talk to you guys soon.